11 spot Bitcoin ETFs were just approved. I'm going to explain to you exactly how these ETFs work and why we're most likely going to see a six-figure Bitcoin in the near future. So everything you need to know about these ETFs will be explained in this presentation. And I'm going to show you the case for $200,000 Bitcoin. When I was saying this years ago, people thought I was crazy, but just pay attention. So what is a spot Bitcoin ETF? So this allows ordinary investors exposure to the price moves of Bitcoin in regular brokerage accounts. So think of your mom, your dad, the boomers that have no idea what Bitcoin even is, let alone understand it. They're going to start to see, maybe I'll sprinkle in a little bit of this into my portfolio. We'll get into that later. So unlike Bitcoin futures ETFs, a spot Bitcoin ETF invests directly into the Bitcoin. Why is this important? It's because Bitcoin has a capped supply of 21 million ever, right? That's the protocol. It's just open source software. However, we're still going to see management fees and brokerage commissions still apply. So no different than if you were to invest with a financial advisor or if you buy an ETF, those have expense ratios. These are going to have expense ratios as well. So how do these things even work? Basically, spot Bitcoin ETFs, they securely hold Bitcoin in a secure digital vault. Think of it like a wallet or cold storage if you're familiar with those terms, with registered custodians. So think of like a Coinbase, for example. They're going to be a registered custodian to BlackRock. So the ETF buys Bitcoin from other holders through authorized exchanges. These tokens are then stored in a digital wallet. If you're not familiar with what a digital wallet or cold storage is, I highly suggest you get into that after this video and I'll explain why. So the ETF then issues shares corresponding to the number of Bitcoin that it holds. So let's zoom in on this a little bit further. So you can see here, you have the ETF shares on the secondary market, you have the dealer inventory, and then you have the actual underlying security. Okay, so let's say we have buyers, we have exchanges, and then we have sellers. This is how we transact. This is how we bring liquidity to the market. We have the market makers, which add liquidity and volume and also volatility. And then we have the authorized participants. So for example, we have iShares by BlackRock. We're going to have Coinbase as an authorized custodian. It's everything that we just talked about in the previous slide. I don't want to take up too much time in the video on this slide. Pause this and analyze this chart. So what is the difference between these spot Bitcoin ETFs versus the futures that I made a video about almost 3.5 years ago now? So these spot Bitcoin ETFs and derivatives-based Bitcoin ETFs, which is the futures market, for example, they differ in how they're structured, okay? So spot Bitcoin ETFs directly hold the Bitcoin. Ding, ding, ding. That's why this is important. It's important because they directly hodl, aka hold the Bitcoin, and there's only a capped supply of 21 million ever, okay? In the future, we're mostly going to be able to borrow against our Bitcoin just like you can borrow against your home via a HELOC. We're not there just yet, or at least in the mainstream. But that's why it's important, because there's only a fixed supply of 21 million Bitcoin ever. So these derivatives-based ETFs can be more opaque for investors, given that their value is derived indirectly from futures contracts. This is no different than trading oil and gas or commodities futures, for example. So let's examine this chart here. So if we look at the spot Bitcoin ETFs right here on this left column and the Bitcoin futures ETFs in the right column, the spot Bitcoin ETFs own the actual underlying asset. These are just futures contracts, again, with the oil and gas analogy. Price tracking, this directly tracks the Bitcoin price. This is the futures market price. If we look at the exposure, this is direct exposure to Bitcoin. I can't stress this enough how important that is. Again, fixed supply. This is indirect exposure to Bitcoin. This is just a futures contract. This is a bet on where the price will be, days, months, years from now. Risk level. This reflects Bitcoin's volatility. This includes futures market risk. So storage and security, this requires secure storage. There is no need for storage because, again, these are just contracts. Settlement. This is settling in physical Bitcoins. When they mean physical, they mean actual Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin isn't physical. And then this is cash settlement. This is fiat. Potential for premium or discount. This can vary significantly, while the futures contracts are often more stable. I do want to introduce the case for six-figure Bitcoin and how this inflow is going to affect the price of Bitcoin. Again, because it has a fixed supply, I can't stress that enough. It's scarce, it's limited, it's verifiable, it's fungible. It has all the properties of sound money, which I'll get into in the conclusion of this video. But first, I want to introduce today's sponsor, Policy Genius. Happy New Year, everyone. This is my first video in 2024, and I wanted to give you a quick reminder that you should be taking time to plan your financial goals and taking them seriously. This is a great opportunity to add life insurance into your overall financial plan if you haven't already done so. Getting life insurance today means you'll have peace of mind for the rest of 2024 and beyond. So if something were to happen to you, your family can cover expenses while getting back on their feet. My wife and I did just that using Policy Genius. Getting started with Policy Genius is simple. We filled out our information on the website, talked to their licensed agent, answered all of her questions, and she got back to us with quotes that made a lot of sense financially and also covered our needs. Policy Genius knows how valuable your time is. Their technology makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from American America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Their licensed, award-winning agents can help you find the best fit for your needs. They work for you, not the life insurance companies. That means they don't have an incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Policy Genius is for parents, caregivers, and anyone else who has people who depend on them. They simplify the process of getting life insurance so you can protect the people you love. No wonder they have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. Your family deserves a peace of mind. A life insurance policy through Policy Genius can give it to them. Head to policygenius.com/whiteboardfinance or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. Okay, thank you for sitting through that. It helps pay for the production costs of this channel. So let's go over some pros and cons of these spot Bitcoin ETFs. So you have the direct holding of Bitcoin. Again, I can't stress this enough. This is not just paper. It's not just a futures contract or an option contract. This is the actual one-to-one reserve of holding the Bitcoins. So next is ease of use. So again, going back to the analogy of the boomers, your grandma could have this in her retirement account. Your parents could have this in their retirement account or their taxable brokerage account. You can have this in your taxable brokerage account, but I'll tell you why you shouldn't at the end of this video. Liquidity, easier to buy and sell quickly. Again, with a Coinbase or a Binance, obviously those are, well, not Binance, but Coinbase is a publicly traded exchange. Sometimes they have technical difficulties. Sometimes they can't get your order filled in time. This is going to make it a lot more easier to do that, providing liquidity to the market. There may be potential tax benefits in the future, just like with a Roth IRA, for example, and then you have lower operational risks. The cons are that it's obviously still a volatile asset class. When people bring up this argument, I just tell them, well, look at email in the 90s, right? Everyone was laughing at it. Oh, you can send, email digitally? Yeah, right. I'm never going to use that. Now everyone uses email, right? This came out in 2009, okay? We're still in its infancy with early adopters. The second con is risk of cyber theft from custodians. This can happen to your stocks. This can happen to anything. I don't know how the insurance is going to work, but this can literally happen to your dollars, right? It's no different than that. Regulatory uncertainty, I guess, maybe down the road, but I think Pandora's box is opened. Then you have management fees, no different than any other ETF or index fund, and then tracking error. So what can this do to the price of Bitcoin? This is where most of you are probably, where your ears perk up, right? So let's talk about the 4 pros. You have increased adoption, you have validation and legitimacy of the asset class. And when I say asset class, I'm not talking about crypto. 99% of crypto is garbage, okay? It's a crypto casino. Bitcoin is the only crypto that I hold, and for a reason. Number 3 is greater liquidity and volatility, and then also fixed supply. So let's take a look at this from Standard Chartered. This came out on January 8th. I posted this right when it came out inside of Whiteboard Finance University. If you haven't joined yet, please check that out. It's my private school. So what they're saying in this paper, and the key points are they see $50 to $100 billion of inflows in 2024. They see $200,000 Bitcoin by year-end 2025. They see $100,000 Bitcoin by year-end 2024. Number 4 is these are all too high. All these assumptions are too high in my opinion. I genuinely do believe we're going to see 6-figure Bitcoin by the summer of 2025. That has more to do with the halvening, and then also this Bitcoin ETF approval is just going to help that. But I think these assumptions of inflows are way too high. It's probably going to be half of that in my opinion. So very quickly, I'm going to get into my conclusion here and my thoughts. But again, if you want to join Whiteboard Finance University, use the code BTCETF20 to get 20% off. That's either on an annual plan or on a monthly plan. So let's get into my thoughts here. I freestyle all of these, my thoughts. These are not outlined. These are just my genuine, candid thoughts because I want them to be as genuine as possible. Bitcoin, in my humble opinion, is the hardest form of money ever created. Okay, it's better than fiat. It's better than gold. It's better than any commodity out there. There are a million reasons for that, but if you don't understand Bitcoin yet in 2024, you're missing out, in my opinion, on one of the biggest paradigm shifts in money and monetary history. So read these 3 books in order. I'm not affiliated with any of these people, okay? I've had them on as guests on my podcast, but they don't pay me. I don't get any kickback. Read them in this order. The Bullish Case for Bitcoin by Vijay Boyapati, Inventing Bitcoin by Jan Pritzker, and then The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous. Okay, read those 3 books in order, and then there's other levels of books that you can read. But for the beginner/beginner intermediate student of Bitcoin, read those 3 books in order. Do it now. Literally, I think 2 of them are free. You can download them as PDFs, okay? Read those books right now. The second point, why you shouldn't buy a Bitcoin ETF or a spot ETF or even a Bitcoin's futures ETF. It defeats the entire purpose of owning and holding Bitcoin. The whole point of, let's just use gold as an example. The reason people use gold is because they can sew it in their jacket, shove it up their butt, and in case something ever happens to them, they can cross borders and leave a certain area of conflict, war, whatever. right? Look at World War II. What did people do? They had gold in their teeth. They had gold up their ass. They had gold inside of their jacket. I'm not joking, okay, when I say that. With Bitcoin, Bitcoin is just a much better version of gold. It's not even comparable in my opinion. But why would you have a third party hold your Bitcoin? That makes absolutely no sense, and it defeats the entire point of owning and holding Bitcoin. When you buy Bitcoin, you are choosing to opt out of the traditional financial system, right? You're choosing to opt out of having third-party brokers, having regulators, having all these people being able to choose or dictate the course of your wealth and your hard-earned work all throughout the course of your life. So let's use inflation as an example. Say, for example, you're 65 years old, you worked your entire life, you worked your ass off, you saved, and during COVID, your government decides to print literally trillions of dollars debasing the currency, and inflation, everything spikes up by 30, 40, 50%. Going out to eat, materials to build things, wood, timber, whatever, all those things went up 50 to 100% at least. So imagine retiring at 65, you saved all your life in dollars, and now your purchasing power just got debased by 30%, right? The point of Bitcoin is that it's a capped supply, 21 million ever, proof of work. All these things will make sense after you read those 3 books if you don't understand this already. Bitcoin is deflationary in its nature. It's scarce, and the amount that miners receive to verify blocks, that's what mining Bitcoin does, is to verify the blockchain network. That's how they're rewarded. That gets cut in half every 210,000 blocks, roughly every 4 years. It's called the halvening, right? So when this happens, in 2009, miners were rewarded 50 Bitcoin for every block they verified. Then it gets cut in half to 25, then 12.5, so on and so forth. We're having the next halving here in April of 2024 or so, and then you'll see what the price of Bitcoin does after that. My point is, you can't even look at Bitcoin in dollar terms. That's a very amateurish way to even value Bitcoin. The only reason it has a dollar amount to it is because that's what we process as value, right? Oh, it's worth 43 grand or 41,000 or whatever it is at the time of this recording. That's not going to matter 20, 30, 40 years from now, right? People will understand what time it is, and they'll understand how Bitcoin, in my opinion, my genuine, humble opinion, because I've studied this for hundreds of hours at this point. I didn't just read an article in the Wall Street Journal, right? My point is people understand how revolutionary this is, and whatever happens to Bitcoin, it's never going to go to zero because the cat is already out of the bag. If it goes to zero, I'll buy it all for a penny, right? And then Joe is going to front run me for 5 cents, and then Katie's going to front run me for $1, and so on and so forth. And you're going to come to a natural market price or equilibrium, right? So without turning this into a really long rant, I could have a whole podcast on this, and I have. But my point is, and for the sake of this video, don't buy the ETF. There's no reason to, unless your boomer parent or grandparent or whatever really wants to. Then sure, try and orange pill them. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because people don't even understand what money is. They don't even know why they're buying the things they buy. They go, oh, I have these pixels on a screen that represent my wealth backed by what? War, the army, petrodollar, demand for dollars, world reserve currency. I mean, those things change, and they have changed. I'm not one of these people that's going to say, oh, currency collapse, we're all going to be living in the Stone Age, the prepper group, which is fine, but that's not going to happen. If you look at past empires that are past their empire stage, if you will, look at the Dutch Empire. They're not living in huts in Amsterdam, right? Look at the Spanish Empire. Same thing. Look at the British Empire. Same thing. The reason the dollar hasn't inflated as much as it should have based on the amount they printed is because of war, the world reserve currency, international demand for dollars being the strongest and deepest financial markets in the world, and then obviously the petrodollar, which I won't even get into. Things are changing, but they're probably not going to change too much in our lifetime. However, being able to buy Bitcoin at this point still in 2024 is probably one of the best things that you can do. I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't have a finance degree. I haven't been investing for 17, 18 years. I haven't studied money extensively my entire life, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Do not listen to me. All right, everybody, thank you so much. If you got value out of this video, I appreciate it. Subscribe, share this video, and have a prosperous day.